If you've spent years keeping the peace, being reliable and agreeable, never needing much, and now you don't even recognize yourself, this video is for you. People say things like, you should be your authentic self. You should be true to yourself. You should take care of your own needs too. And maybe part of you agrees with that. But if you've spent decades wearing different social masks, going along to get along, worrying about what others think, and shaping yourself around other people's expectations, those words start to feel kind of abstract. Who are you then, really? You hear terms like authentic self, and maybe you get the idea in theory, but you have no idea how it applies to you. What you like, what you prefer, what really matters to you, it's all gotten buried. And chances are you've evolved in ways you don't even fully recognize. You feel lost, you're not in crisis, but something's off. And I've been there. I totally get it. Suppressing ourselves costs us a lot more than we realize. Of course, it means the world doesn't get to see who we really are, and it prevents us from having real, honest relationships with people. But it also takes a psychological toll on us in many ways we may not even be aware of. I got a quick example. Let's say you're 14 years old, you go into a store with a couple of friends, and they steal candy. You have a strong moral compass and believe stealing is wrong. Even though you didn't steal anything, you're going to get a very uncomfortable feeling inside because you are in the store with people who stole, and you also realize your friends have different standards than you do. That uncomfortable feeling when we're doing something out of alignment with our beliefs is called cognitive dissonance. And in the candy stealing example, it's very easy to understand what the specific incident was that caused the uncomfortable feelings. But what if we spend decades out of touch with ourselves, always doing what others want, avoiding conflict, living a life that isn't really ours, and we never speak up? Well, we lose our voice and the cognitive dissonance sets in. But unlike the candy stealing example, this is a slow burn. We gradually feel more stressed. We might feel anxious or depressed or carry around feelings of guilt and shame, like we've done something wrong, even if we haven't. Some people just feel off in a way they have trouble articulating. But regardless of how we feel, the odds are good that we won't be at peace. And if we continue living this way, we not only continue to suffer, but we risk our physical and mental health. On the other hand, if we learn to reverse course and start finding our voice, even though that might be hard at first, eventually we'll probably feel lighter, more at peace, better about ourselves, not resentful toward others, and be able to have honest relationships. Now, I can tell you for sure from my own personal experience that living in alignment with myself, with what my values are, with what matters to me, is so much smoother, peaceful, and effortless than feeling like you're living someone else's life that you didn't sign up for. I've done that. So, what's the path to getting reconnected with ourselves? I'll tell you steps that work for me, but first I'll give you more context. In the previous decade, I went through some stressful life changes, and it just got to the point where something broke inside of me. I knew things had to change. I wasn't happy with myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't respect myself. I'd gone through divorce and other relationship challenges. Through doing a lot of work on myself, I realized how much I had been a people-pleasing nice guy. I didn't want to make waves. I suppressed myself. I cared too much about what others thought. I actually felt like as a result of my misery, I went through a shift in my identity. I did not become an asshole either, which is what a lot of people assume. I was determined to live from a place of true strength and not weakness or fear anymore. And I created a video about that I'll link to at the end of this one. But here are the details of what I did. First, I made a commitment to myself to change. I needed to find my voice. I had suppressed my opinions and had been going along to get along. I was miserable and I knew there was no going back. This was the start of a new chapter. The old chapter had to end. And I believe this step of making a commitment to yourself to change is one of the most important ones. If you don't do this, you'll stay stuck. You'll keep watching videos and intellectually they'll make sense, but you'll deceive yourself into thinking you're making progress. Second, I decided to express my opinions when I had them. And this didn't mean expressing all of my opinions, of course. It just meant that I was an active participant in social situations. We were discussing where to eat or what to do or whatever, then I'd add my 2 cents. And in the beginning, I realized that sometimes I had to express an opinion even if I didn't feel like I had one. This helped me get in the habit. After a while, it became much more natural, and now I don't even think about this. I express an opinion if I have one, but if I honestly don't care either way about something, I'll say that. But what I don't do is automatically, robotically say, I don't care, whatever you want is fine. Third, I decided to stop apologizing when I had done nothing wrong. I was raised to be very polite. When I was a kid, growing up in a small town in the 70s and 80s, all of my parents' friends were Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. No first names. I think that out of an effort to be polite, I got into the bad habit of apologizing unnecessarily. The problem with doing this is that you appear weak, you're less likely to be respected, and without realizing it, you slowly erode your own self-worth. Now, it's second nature for me at this point. If I screw up, I apologize. No big deal. If I'm running behind and I keep someone waiting for an extra 5 minutes, I'll thank them for waiting. If I feel the need to contribute something important during a meeting, I'll speak up without apologizing. If someone is employed to do a task that helps me, I don't say I'm sorry for bothering them. I just treat them respectfully and I thank them for their time and assistance. Fourth, I made sure that I was part of the equation. I still considered others' needs, but I made sure to consider my own as well. I've always believed in being kind, and that didn't change, but I learned to have better boundaries. So I learned to say no when I needed to. If I could help someone because they needed it and I genuinely wanted to help them and had the time, I would do it. But I made sure I was doing it out of a place of sincerity and not a sense of obligation that was tainted with resentment, because that's often what happens with people pleasing. Fifth, I decided to treat myself with more respect. People pleasers naturally tend to put others on a pedestal, and that's unhealthy. I consciously made sure I was seeing other people as equals, and I expect to be treated with mutual respect. I started taking better care of myself. If there was an experience or a material item that I could afford that I believed would add value to my life, I purchased it instead of always telling myself that I'm fine, I don't need anything. Sixth, I stopped second-guessing myself when I did something purely for pleasure. So, for example, I used to eat the dessert once in a while, but feel a little bad about it. Not because I didn't deserve it, but because part of me couldn't fully let go. I'd think about the calories or the sugar or whether I was being disciplined enough. But what I've come to realize is that always monitoring myself, even in moments of joy, was just another form of self-suppression. A quieter, more acceptable version of that same old pattern, never taking up too much space, never being too much. Now, if I decide to eat the ice cream, I eat the damn ice cream. I let myself enjoy it. I let that be enough. Don't do it all the time, but when I do, I don't bring guilt to the table with me. That's what's changed. Occasional indulgence without guilt is a good thing. I've had a lot of painful experiences that got me to where I am today, but it's made me who I am, and I couldn't go back to what I used to be. What I want you to understand, though, is that I'm not unique or special. Wherever you are, there is hope. You can change, and you can get reconnected with yourself. I hope you'll make a commitment to you. You've got one shot at this life. You're not selfish for having wants or needs, and you can honor that and still be a good person. Please like this video if you found it helpful, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Thanks for watching.